Come what may, bring it on. I'm gonna love it.
Welcome to LDS Unmarried Live, a podcast for single members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who find themselves that way either because they're divorced, widowed, or not yet married. There is no affiliation with the church. This podcast can be found on AnnetteTalks.com, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, and Spotify. Also, I would like to have my listeners come over to my Facebook page when they get a chance. It's Annette Talks Facebook page. And I'm trying to get some discussion going over there. And I recently added a Patreon page. So if you go to patreon.com/Annette Talks, that would be great as well. And before we get into today's topic, I wanted to let you know we're recording in Utah today. So I'm in Zion with my Utah friends. And so let's go ahead and go around and introduce ourselves. As you all know, I'm Annette Bybee. This is my podcast. I'm 50 years old. I've been divorced for almost 4 years, and I have 3 daughters, ages 8, 9, and 11. And let's go over to Julie.
Okay, I'm Julie Johnson. I've been divorced for a year and a week. 3 kids, 18, 22, and 25. And I'm 50 and doing fine.
And you might remember Julie from an earlier podcast.
Yeah, apparently we didn't have when we were talking about our non-relationships then.
That we
never
our first post-divorce
breakups
that Steve say were early relationships. But anyway, going on over to Greg. Doug. Sorry, I don't know why I want to do that every time. I always have a thing with Doug and Greg. I don't know what it is. Doug, I'm looking right at you.
I'm Doug Rutherford, long-time listener, first-time participant. I'm 43. I have 3 girls, ages 18, 15, and 12. And I have been divorced since August of 2017.
All right. And Steve.
Annette followed me to Utah.
Technically, you came before I did.
I did, right. So you followed me.
Yeah, you're right. I did. But on different freeways. Right.
Steve Smith, I've been on the podcast before. I've been divorced. I'm going on 6 years. 2 kids, 18-year-old daughter serving in the Utica, New York mission, and a 16-year-old son that I'm going to have breakfast with tomorrow that lives in Utah. And my phone number, 435-224-3850.
Awesome. But Steve lives in the Denver area, well, north of Denver.
Loveland.
Loveland. We're both out from Colorado, but you've got a 435 number. I just wanted the Utah ladies to not get confused and think that you live here right now.
Right.
Anyway.
Confuse them. I'll move. I'll move.
Call Steve. He's willing to move for you, ladies.
There you go.
See, and just as we think we have a strategy, a girl comes along and just messes it all up for us, doesn't it?
In the right way.
All right, and we have Kirk.
Kirk Meekum, divorced for almost 8 years, 3 daughters, 1 granddaughter, pretty cool son-in-law, as long as I keep him in line. And Steve thought he knew me, and I'm thinking I know Steve, so we'll try and figure out how we know each other. And I just got a fortune that says, you will be successful someday.
You're already successful.
Yeah.
Well, mine said I was surrounded by fortune hunters.
Kirk is a local celebrity here in the States.
You're successful to me.
Well, I've got you guys fooled. Awesome.
Well, thank you all for joining me here. And what we're going to be talking about today is gathering. And I think I'm going to call this episode Why Singles Need to Gather. So I was thinking about, what I should call it, why they should gather, but I ended up deciding that we actually need to. It's a necessity for us. And I think it's important because we can see the work of the church hastening like crazy, right? Conferences tomorrow, it's this weekend, and I think they're going to announce a bunch of new temples. That's what I've heard, like a boatload. But anyway, the work is hastening, and that means that we need to hasten our own personal work as well. And when I look at singles, I think there's a tendency for Satan to come in and make us feel like we're all alone. He wants to take us and make us feel like we have no one supporting us, we have no one on our side, and a lot of times I think we feel alone and lonely. And so one of the ways to combat that is to get together with other singles. there's strength in numbers, right? And we can minister to each other, and we can know we're just not in this alone. And so this has been a really a big theme in my life for the last few years, and I've made a real effort to try and gather singles, and this podcast is kind of the result of me starting to gather singles. It's organically grown from there. We had a break the fast at my house. Well, Steve, what was this, like 6 months ago? Something. It was last summer. I don't know, but we had something like 10, 15 people, and we all ended up in the backyard on the back deck, and we went around and introduced ourselves, and then everyone just started talking about what it was like to be single, and we all started talking about dating and parenting and all these interesting things. It ended
Light bulb.
Yeah, it ended up being a fabulous discussion, a wonderful evening, and we all agreed that we didn't want that to end. We wanted to do this kind of thing again because we all felt really bonded to each other and like we all connected. And so I thought, that's what I need to do on my podcast. I need to get people together and give them a voice and let them feel like they're connecting with the people around the table, but also the people that are listening on the podcast. And so the podcast is one way I've been helping people to gather, especially if you can't be here physically near other singles. I've had listeners message me and say, thank you for the podcast because I haven't been to any activities in a really long time and I feel like I'm a part of something. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. Other things I like to do is try to have people over.
You could be in an area like me that doesn't have very many activities.
Yeah, if you don't.
Or if you want to drive an hour and a half to get to an activity.
Right, or you need to create them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we have a decent number of singles in our area, although you're up north. But in some areas, they're probably, church activities are probably far and few between. Few and far between. Anyway. And so you might have to find alternate ways to gather people. But I like to do break the fast. I like to do just little parties. I like to do come follow me's.
I've done home evening groups that were wonderful.
Yeah. And so the purpose of this is I want to talk about why is gathering important, what have we been doing to gather, and what are some of the results we're seeing from gathering. And I know that some of you are gatherers, like Steve just mentioned. And Steve and I wrote a book called Dating After Divorce, an LDS Survival Guide, just from our experiences and what we've learned and people we've talked to. And
when does that come out?
Oh, thanks for asking, Doug. It's at the editor right now, getting formatted, probably 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month.
Book cover's done.
So excited.
Yeah, so soon. You'll hear all about it. But anyway, the reason I brought it up was because we tell a lot of gathering stories in that book. Like Steve, you had a wing night, right?
We had a group of guys that decided the girls were doing a girls' night out.
Sure.
So we decided we needed a guys' night out. Tuesday night was half-price wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we would rotate locations once a month. The first Tuesday of the month, we would rotate locations, and the guys would show up. Worked really, really well until some women found out about it and then complained. And so then we opened it up to anybody who wanted to come. Mm-hmm. And then it was still really good.
Yeah.
That core group of people were really good people.
I think it's kind of silly when women do that, but I think it's awesome that...
And none of the women that complained even showed up.
What did I say at the very beginning?
So a woman comes along and messes
It
things
just
up.
messes it all up.
Thanks, Kirk. I want you guys to know that's
You're
Kirk.
glad you invited me.
Right?
That wasn't me for a change.
I got invited to that at one point, but it was just never worked out.
Yeah, weeknights are hard. Tuesday nights are hard.
Yeah, Tuesday nights didn't work, but yeah, I mean, you guys had a lot of fun, didn't you? Didn't you feel like you had strength in numbers?
We did, and at different times, that group and the home evening group, what you'll find, some of the statistics in the church right now are that 80% of men that get divorced leave the church. Mm-hmm. That strength, that unity, just having that to look forward to, that between the home evening groups was something that was really good for me. I was a single dad to a teenage daughter at the time, which is comical just to say the least, but you know, that's hard in itself. But to have just some camaraderie of being single, knowing what we're all going through. Yes, the phones came out and we asked each other, do you know this girl? Do you know this girl? That did happen. But just to have somebody to go hang out with, One of the people from the home evening group, went to a movie with him last night. We still hang out regularly. He's closer to me. He lives in close proximity.
So here they have mid-singles wards, and my first Sunday after getting divorced, going to a mid-singles ward, I sat in the back. I didn't know anybody, and I'm looking out over the sea of people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are 5 women to every guy here. And,
It's not like that over in Colorado.
and I'm like, in my ward, there was 2 relief societies and 1 elders quorum.
Wow.
The mid-singles ward to the north of me, which was way bigger, they had 3 relief societies and 2 elders quorums.
That makes me think I would never move to Utah.
I'm like, holy crap! I feel.
We're too old for those words.
Yeah, we are too old for those
And
words.
so it makes like Steve was saying that gathering all that more important.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to go to those. You don't want to be in a club. And
Right.
somehow we have to make peace with our new normal
Yeah.
and go to those
Well,
gatherings.
sometimes the big things are just really ominous. They're really difficult. And sometimes the smaller, intimate groups, just like what we have today, you feel a lot closer. You can talk about things. Like we had good conversation before, and I'm sure we'll have a good conversation after the podcast. We usually do. You find strength because we all know it's not that easy.
No.
When I see somebody join into one of the groups I'm involved in, whether it's a group I created or another one, somebody joins, I reach out, I say hello to them, I welcome them, make sure that they know that they're noticed, right, and that they're welcome, that they're part of us, because what I see happening is that it needs to be more than just a community, which those are all over and easy to find and well, here anyway.
Yeah, I was
they're
gonna say,
all over.
Utah, it's a different
Here,
story.
yeah, here they're all over, and you can get lost.
The
lost
land of
in them.
milk and honey.
It's true, but it's easy.
Lots of
yeah,
honeys.
It's easy to get lost in that, and so I'm like, hey, welcome to the group, and I make sure that somebody, at least me, is reaching out to them and letting them know that they're welcome and that they're accepted and that they're supported and they're not alone, and that I'm showing interest in them, and I'll ask them, hey, what should we know about you, right?
Right.
And give them a chance to become familiar with the group.
And your favorite, that's what got me, I think we met at a group, and that was one of my first single groups. I'm like, this is where the cool guys are at
Well, because
They're
it needs to
at
be
the house there.
It needs to be more than a community, and I just interacted with another group that was already doing it, and they showed me that it was possible. The way they were doing it, that it was more than just a community. It was actually a family. I went into this group, didn't know anybody. They made me feel like I was a relative that they hadn't met before or hadn't seen in a long time. This guy, hey, we do guys' nights at my place. Let me get your contact info, and we'll hang out and we'll do ping pong and we'll do pool and we'll watch a movie, whatever. I'm like, whoa, I just met you, and you're really making me feel welcome. And I'm like, I can do that for other people because I know how good that felt when they did that after being lost and alone and ignored so much of my life.
And I hate to say it, but sometimes by the church and the wards we're in. We're a church of married people, and they don't know how to treat us.
In a way, and it's not just us either. Sometimes it's wards in general. I had a coworker tell me a story today about somebody that went to a church, non-member, visitor. He'd been there for 8 weeks, and he got up in fast and testimony meeting, and he said, I have been here for 8 weeks. And nobody has said hello to me. Nobody has made eye contact to me and said hello as I walked by in the hallway. And I don't remember what else he said, but he finished his little spiel and he walked out. And the whole congregation was silent. Who wants to follow that?
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that's one of the reasons I don't do that. That's one of the reasons I say hello to people in the hallway. I don't know who they are, what their background is, or what their situation is, but you don't know the impact.
You talk to everybody.
Yeah, making eye contact, saying hello, and if you ask, how are you doing? Be prepared for an answer because you ask sincerely. I actually want to know how you're doing. It's not just the recognition of, hey, I acknowledge your presence. It's how are you feeling, and be prepared to listen.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the smaller gatherings are really good because you actually get to connect with people, look them in the eye, get to know them a little bit. And if you're getting together with them often enough to get to know them, then all of a sudden they become part of I always call it my tribe, right? So, if people that have come and podcasted with me, if they've come more than once, there's usually a connection that lasts for a really long time, and I consider them to be my friends now, because we sat around and we talked and we got to know each other a little bit. But like Steve said, a lot of times we don't feel seen in our wards. So we've got to reach out and find people that are going to see us, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see them back. Steve and I were talking on the way up here. We talked on the phone a little bit while we were driving. And I think, part of it is that a lot of times leaders in the church have been married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They just don't understand. It's not that they don't care. It's just that they've never been in this position. Maybe they got married at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They have these stories like, it's so wonderful. I'm so happy that you guys have been married for all this time. So it's you just don't have an understanding of where we're at, what it feels like to either not have been married at all yet or to have been through it and now on the other side and feeling alone a lot of the time. They just don't understand.
What's the answer to that? What is it that we want them to know?
I had
What do we
one.
want to
I had
change?
one come up to me within the last 6 months. I can't remember when it was. Hey, Brother Smith, how you doing? Good. And we talked for a few minutes, and he said, I just didn't think you were going to be single this long.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
How do you take that?
yeah.
Do you take that as a compliment,
It kind of
or
is,
is that
yeah.
there's something wrong with me? Their intentions are very good, but a lot of times they just don't know what to say. And that really wasn't a good thing to say because it made me feel weird, like I had a third eye or something.
It's just like, right, because I'm awesome, right?
Well, it's kind of like telling a woman who's a little bit heavier, "Oh, when are you due?" "Oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting."
That's not
you
the
don't
kind of thing
ask
you
a woman
say.
if she's
No.
due unless
No.
you see the baby
I
crying.
had someone.
Same with
Yeah.
someone who's single. You don't. You
Point out that they're
point
single?
out that they're single.
Yeah.
No, I had someone say this recently. It's like we're all, as we're looking for, someone to share our life with. It's like we want someone that has all the pieces of the puzzle that we're looking for, right? And we get to know somebody and we realize they don't have the pieces of the puzzle that we want, and so we move on.
I'd even take some with a few pieces
Yeah,
missing.
and sometimes we're a little bit picky. And I responded that, look, if I'm looking for a really awesome puzzle, I need to be an awesome puzzle myself, and I know that I have all the pieces that someone else is looking for. I just need to find the person that's looking for my puzzle. I'm
That's
already
puzzling.
there.
I love that.
We do talk about that in the book
Lost a
too.
piece. Just think
If you're
about
looking for a spiritual giant, you can't be a spiritual mouse.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. There are some pieces of my puzzle that's missing, but those are the part that she's going to provide.
Right.
And I'm going to provide some to her puzzle.
Isn't that funny how this discussion on
love that.
gathering somehow ended up back to trying to find a mate? But, obviously we all want to be married, or we've all, at times, sometimes I'm like, I'm all good. But that's another thing that gathering is good for, because you might find someone at one of these gatherings that you actually get to know, and if they aren't someone that's good for you, they might be good for somebody that that you could invite into your little group.
Tell us about your experience, Annette.
I don't have one. So I have no idea what you're talking about there.
Somehow I think there is.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to share that yet.
Somebody from a podcast shared something with Annette.
Oh, I just have someone doing some matchmaking. But I don't know if it'll go
and those things can come from it, or they may not. But you can't expect it.
Well,
No,
But it's-
yes, go with no expectations to
Yes.
these groups. That's just it.
My perception of singles activities, ever since I was a young single, just fresh off a mission or whatever,
And this is Kirk, right?
Kirk speaking. How y'all doing? That's why they're having these activities. That's why they're having these get-togethers, so everyone can find their eternal companion.
Mm-hmm.
And so my perception of singles gatherings over the years has been kind of sour and been kind of sarcastic, a little bit cynical.
Yeah.
I'd go there and I've said to people, I'm afraid of singles in large gatherings. Because there's
Well, you go to those dances and they're all wiggling and moving around.
well, I mean, that ain't that bad, but no, but there's like an air, there's a feeling you walk
Yes.
in of searching desperation
Yeah,
almost.
pressure.
You know,
The guys have blinders on.
I've even felt that going into a singles ward. I haven't been to a single adult ward in many, many years, except to just visit once, maybe a few years ago. So I walk in there and I feel like, oh my gosh, all these people are just looking around going, where is she?
Yes.
You know? And
Yes.
so I haven't been one who's gone to a lot of gatherings and put a whole lot of stock in them until more recently. But it's true. It gets back to, so why do we have them? Well, it's good to go and have the support. It's good to go and make the friends, and maybe you might meet somebody. You know, it's happened.
It can happen, and actually, I'm going to do a future episode, and I don't know when we'll do it, if it's going to be tonight or another night, but I'm going to call it Marriage Envy, how to handle when other people are moving on. Because it's that time of year, and
Yes?
Facebook, well, you're not on Facebook, so you don't know. I know of at least 3 or 4 couples that have gotten together and engaged over the last month or so, and I'm so happy for them, but it's like, I'm
Me
like,
next.
gritting my teeth, like, why is it not me? But the point is that
It could be.
it
really
could be you.
It could be you next.
It could.
Just
But-
lower your expectations.
Oh, gosh. That's a whole other episode.
Have you
But
met Steve?
the point is, none of us know how long this single state is going to last. But while we're in it, and even beyond, I think married people need to get used to gathering as well, because gathering is huge as far as our personal growth if we're doing it the right way, right? We should be getting together with people and come follow me, scripture study, especially if you don't have kids, and we're going to do an episode on that next week, how we're all handling come follow me as a single. But where you get together with like-minded people and help strengthen each other's testimony and help build each other up, and it's kind of like ministering in a group, right? We all want to be there to make sure that someone's there for everyone. Everyone should have someone that they can turn to, and you can't do that if you're not getting together and getting to know people.
And I think our reason for gathering shares some things with other groups that are common, regardless of circumstances, whether it be, singles or you're the person who feels alone in middle school. You want to belong. You want to feel like you can belong to something, and hopefully it's a good cause. And I'm glad that I can be engaged in helping to provide that. It feels great. When you asked earlier, what benefits have you seen from gathering? And this is what Cable said. He's a huge influence in that area.
And tell us, who's Cable?
Cable is one of the guys that he puts on events or gathers events for a lot of singles in the area. He's got a huge following, enough that he has to have 4 Facebook accounts, and he's been doing it for 8 years. And I think he understands the following that he has at this point, where if he says, hey guys, let's do this service project, he's going to have a little army behind him.
Wow.
To do it. If he wants to say, hey, let's support this business, that business is going to grow. But he says, what benefits have you seen from gathering? He said, when we gather as singles, we create a community that provides support, advice, associations that help us every day. Having this community of people that are going through the same thing as we are is invaluable to our growth and development. Like you were saying, without this community, some of us would not be able to grow enough to get a help place where we can have the kind of relationship that we all deserve that will help us to be better people.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think it's sometimes, I know I have days where I feel like it's just me. I'm all alone, or I'm all alone with my girls. And people are nodding. You can't see this on podcast. But I think all of us
It's
singles,
every day for me.
Kirk, even if you nod really hard, they still can't
Still
see
can't
you.
hear me?
Yeah.
I would think my neck bones would crack a little bit. Okay.
Obviously, I'm not the only one that feels lonely. I can see myself so many times where I'm sitting at home just feeling alone.
Yes.
And so
On the couch with a half-gallon of ice cream, just...
that's you, Steve.
Oh, yeah,
Ice
that's
cream.
Ice cream. Yeah.
Ice cream today.
We'll gather for some ice cream later. But and so it's really always nice to be able to look at my calendar on my phone and say, oh, I've got this coming up, I've got this coming up. And know that, yes, I might feel alone right now, but this weekend or tomorrow night, I've got a group getting together. Or I'm going to be doing this podcast. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing that. So even the aloneness is not, it's temporary.
It's true.
And I think when you're instead of going thinking like, oh my gosh, am I going to find my eternal companion at these things? Instead of going there with that expectation, go to see who you can help. And that's what you're talking about, and that's what Doug's talking about, and I think all of you guys are talking about is going and changing the perspective and the expectation. Well, just not have expectations. Go and see how many people you can talk to, because so many people there at these gatherings are dying for someone to notice them, someone to talk to, and they are feeling alone. So it's going to get you out of your comfort zone and out of your however we're feeling like, oh my gosh, poor me, and it helps somebody else.
And it's daunting to go by yourself to one of these
scary.
gatherings. I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier about the dances tomorrow, and they're like, I've gone by myself and it's been horrible.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, those ginormous dances, we don't have those. So I can't wait. Actually, I'm going tomorrow night because it's been so long.
But you could be alone at those big dances.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, such big gatherings like that, almost lend themselves to it, which is why it's better to go with a little group. Because
Well, with girls, I went alone to a dance, and you see the girls dancing. I just joined.
Yeah.
I just joined in. Guys
Same
don't
here.
do that.
Guys don't
Guys
do
just
that,
are gonna say, "Hey, can I join in your little group?"
Right.
Girls.
I mean,
No,
you're
it's-
welcome to do that. Though.
Look at guys.
Because
fun.
girls
When
will
it's a
take-
bunch of girls, oh heck yeah, I do.
Yeah, but if there's
But-
a bunch of guys, aren't
bunch of
gonna be
guys?
dancing,
Oh, no.
you're not gonna do that.
Yeah, because
No,
Julie,
that's
when I
that's a
came last time
man
when we went to that
violation.
dance and you disappeared for a while, I just went out on the dance floor and found groups of strangers to dance with and had a good time. But yeah, guys don't do that.
No.
But back to what Julie said, this is a little prayer I came up with a while back. Every time I'm going someplace like a fireside or a party or whatever, I say, please let me find someone great to date. If I can't find someone great to date, let me have a good time. If I can't really have a great time or a good time, let me find someone to help. Because there's always going to be someone without fail, one of those things will happen. Well, not usually the first one, but I will usually have a good time, and almost always will see that there's someone that wants to talk to me. And that means that someone needs to be heard and seen. It's connection. It's all about connection. And if you look around for it, someone wants it. Someone wants some connection. Yes, Doug.
Before I got divorced, meaning most of my life, I was shy. Most people who know me now don't know that I was extremely shy. I wouldn't talk to strangers. Was uncomfortable talking to people I didn't know, and I just was in the shadows wanting someone to notice me because I didn't feel comfortable initiating a conversation. I wanted to belong, and I wanted to be included. I wanted someone to come over and say, hey, will you join our group? And a lot of times it didn't happen. I know how horrible that felt for me. That's changed a lot for me since I've gotten divorced for a variety of reasons. And I went to an event last year where there was 100 people and I didn't know anybody. And while I was there, I saw this person standing over by themselves, and their body language said to me, they either want their alone time or that was me. And I walked over and I said that. I said, hey, do you want to be alone, or do you want to come and do some of the activities that some of the other people are doing? And she said, I want to do some stuff. I just don't know how to carry on a conversation with people. I'm like, I can help you. She's like, you want to come over and talk with these people? And she goes, I don't know any of them. I go, neither do I. Let's go find out together. And we go over, and there was actually some coloring books and stuff. We sat down, and I introduced myself, and I introduced her. I said, what's your name? And we started having a conversation. And since then, people have been supportive and encouraging of this person to where they started taking initiative. She started taking initiative of herself, going to stuff by herself, even creating a few events. And this event that I went to on Saturday, big speed dating event put on by LDSsinglelife.com.
What was that?
Shameless
LDSsinglelife.com. of which I'm on the board of directors as content director. I put on this thing, and she told me for the first time in 20 years, she danced.
Wow.
in public. I'm like,
Oh, I know who you're
holy
talking
cow.
about.
Yeah, holy cow, right?
Yeah.
That's huge for her. And that's, I mean, I don't think she considers herself a success story, but she is. She really is. And for people who don't think that miracles happen today, that's one right there.
And
That's
she's
awesome.
a miracle because, number one, she left an abusive relationship and she was willing to be open. And put herself out there and allow.
And
And
that's
Doug,
hard.
you need to plug in your phone number because girls are going to be calling you. Like you just sealed the deal,
You
dude.
can have my email address.
Okay, you need to say your email because
Doug.rutherford@gmail.
that was so sexy.
Way to go.
And if
Nicely
you didn't
done.
catch that, you can always email me at annette@annettetalks.com and I will forward anything. Also, you can go on and comment on this episode on annettetalks.com. So, or go to Facebook at Facebook/AnnetteTalks and get a hold of me and say, oh, I really liked how one of those people sounded on that podcast episode. Can you, have them contact me or whatever.
These are some great guys that we are with.
I think,
Yes.
I mean, I could say, how you doing? But Kirk says it way better.
Yeah, go ahead.
How you doing?
Look at that.
Wow. That's awesome. That's great. But Doug, that's a great story. I mean, I think that is so neat that you walked in not knowing anyone, saw someone else that didn't know anyone, and took the initiative to say, let's go meet some people. That's great, because I think so many times people they'll show up at something, they'll feel ignored or not seen, and they maybe just walk out or...
That was me. All the time, that was me. And having been there, when I see it now, I can't not do something because I know how horrible it felt and I know how desperately I wanted someone to approach me and do exactly that. And so when I see it now, as long as I have anything that I can do about it, I can't not fix it or approach it if they're wanting to. I talked to a guy yesterday. He said, oh yeah, I'm just trying to get back into the social scene. And I'm like, well, if you want help, I know I can help you.
Wow.
Let me know.
That's great.
And it really is about, if we, again, changing the perspective, it's about ministering. Don't make it about yourself, do it about ministering. I went to a activity once, and I didn't want to go alone, and I did go alone. And I'm sitting there, and just as you're about to get up, and I'm like, okay, do I go and eat a cookie and then leave, awkwardly eat a cookie alone because I didn't know anybody? Or what would I do? What should I do? Because why did I come here and just for myself? Or should I really, I've always learned from one of my mentors is to meet 5 new people a week.
Wow.
And I thought, well, why don't I just meet 5 new people right here at the activity? That's when I met you, Kurt. That was that night.
That's right.
And you were number 5.
Oh.
So I ended up with 6. And so what happened was I talked to the 2 people right next to me. So it's always easier to talk to the people that you sit next to. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Why am I 5? And I'm not going to leave until I do my 5. And because successful people do 5 a week, So here's your chance. Here's my chance. And I went out, and I thought, you know what, I just can't do it. I did 2. That's going to be good. I'll find my 3 the following week. So I go outside the hallway, and I'm about to go when Cosette.
Yeah.
She's the one that came and approached me.
I told her about that.
That was... So this girl, I don't even know her, and she comes right up to me, and she goes, my friend, you're my friend. And I'm like, oh, me? Yes, you're my friend. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I am. And she introduced herself, and she introduced her friend. So now we're at 5 people.
She's in my ward.
Okay, you were number 6, I think. No. And so, yeah, maybe you were 5 or 6. And then I'm like, okay, now I have some confidence to go get my number 5, and that's when I went and saw Kirk for the first time because we were talking. We were Facebook friends.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my gosh, there you are.
Oh.
And
I was with the date.
And you were with the date.
Yes.
Okay, that was kind of awkward. I bet because
Tiny
I'm
bit.
like, hey,
That's
I
okay.
know you.
That's all right.
It was probably awkward for her.
She's
Sorry.
engaged now, so
Okay.
to somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to go out with you so that
Pretty
I
much,
can
yeah.
get engaged.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm one of those too. If I take you, hey, if you guys all take me to the district, you will find your happy ever after.
Hey, if I thought it would help, I'd go out with him.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So, but Kirk
Whatever
was
it
my
takes.
number 5, and I ended up.
If you'll buy, I'm on. We're ready.
Bro, I'm all over it.
All right.
So anyway,
I don't know what just happened.
yeah,
Welcome
2
back.
dudes
Welcome back
just
to
agreed to go out if it meant one of them would get
We have-
engaged to a lady.
Going
That's what
off on
happened.
a tangent.
welcome back to the discussion.
I
Yeah.
love
I like
it.
doing that.
I
It's
love it.
fun.
I'm always the big spoon. That's my rule.
Should we talk about kissing now? Because that's where,
That's where that goes.
that's where these episodes
Yes,
go
I
sometimes.
love kissing. Let's talk about
It's fun to meet Facebook people in person, though, isn't it?
How you
Because I
doing?
have so many
How you
Facebook friends
doing?
that like are just Facebook friends.
What's Facebook?
Yeah, shut up, Steve. He kicked the habit 2.5 years ago. I'm still taking it
Wow.
every
Oh my
day,
gosh.
every
I get
hour.
a twitch if I don't check every
Oh
5
my
minutes.
gosh.
Yeah.
I went to
Terrible.
church without my phone and my daughter's, and I said, we need to go back. I don't have my phone. And she goes, you're going to be okay. No, I'm going to start to shake. She goes, you can hold my phone at church, Mom. I'm like,
Oh,
okay. And so
that's a
we're
good
sitting there,
kid
and
right
she
there.
thought she was kidding. And I'm like, I need your phone. I just need to hold your phone.
Well, Steve, first electricity was discovered.
Wow.
He was there. I was there.
I look that old?
Remember, Kurt?
Okay, so I'm going to bring it back to what Julie was saying.
Gathering.
And I think the important thing that we tend to forget sometimes when we're out at something and we feel all awkward, like the cookie thing. I've been there so many times too, especially like a Relief Society thing where you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
You're at the cookie table going, oh, I don't know
I
anybody.
just grab a couple of cookies and leave.
Well, if you're going to be actually gathering and trying to meet people,
You need to meet 5 new people.
which
Yeah.
and the
Steve's
thing
gotta
is,
meet his
successful.
pockets.
we tend to forget that we're not the only ones feeling awkward. Like I wouldn't have thought Julie would have felt awkward.
Very.
And people probably wouldn't think that I would feel awkward. I feel awkward all the time. But if I feel awkward, chances are that the people next to me are feeling it. So they would probably welcome me turning to them. And I usually make some silly comment about the cookies or something. You know, it's just open with a little joke. But most people are just like us, standing around feeling awkward, lonely, alone, and wanting connection.
Yep.
So
So let's talk about what are some great one-liners to just come out and just say, hey,
Doug's got the best
Okay,
one.
Doug.
Go, Doug.
When I met Annette back in December, I said to her a question that I've asked people before, but she gave me such great feedback on it. I've been using it all the time now, and that is I introduce myself, I ask her name, and then I just say, "What should I know about you?" It's such a great open-ended question because it gives them a time to shine and say whatever they want to. Because so many people just go with, "What do you do? Where you're from? You know, how many kids you have? Blah blah blah, whatever," which you can find out eventually. In fact, I just found out somebody that I'd been communicating with for the last couple months. I just found out what she does today.
Because it wasn't your first question.
It's because it's not who they are. What they do isn't necessarily who they are, unless that's maybe they own the business or something. It's part of what they are, and it's so much more intriguing to find out who they are. Just like
See,
Mark.
some of us, though, are really shy.
Mark, that was on your podcast before, he told us he is not his accent. Everyone wants to ask him
Oh,
about
Right.
Mark Granger, the
Yeah.
Brit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and
I just wanted him for his accent. though,
right. Everybody
on
does.
my
And
podcast.
I introduced somebody to him.
he does have great jeans. Just and a great coat, trench coat.
Oh, you're actually talking about clothing for a second. I'm like, and then,
How
Those
do you
kind of
know?
jeans.
I'm like, he seemed
Oh.
like,
DNA?
yeah, I know. That's what I was confused.
I
about.
introduced somebody to him on Sunday. I said, "That's Mark. Ask him about him, not his accent, because he's a person." And I learned that about him.
And you and I, as a result of that opening discussion at a party where I did not know, I knew very few people. I came with Julie, and I didn't know anybody. It was Utah,
you're
not my
out of
state.
town, yeah.
I worked that room. But anyway, I often think if I lived here, I would own this single seat. But, Doug, you and I bonded over that conversation when we saw each other the next day, right? We've talked since then many times. We're podcasting together because you asked that question that showed interest in me, and of course, I'm always willing to talk about myself. So, but that showed me that you actually cared. So we connected. And so I think if we can all find ways to connect, whether it's an awesome line like that.
Yeah, I don't care
or
if other
something
people
else.
use that. I think it's wonderful. Use it.
It is a great line. I mean, it just shows that
I
open-ended,
don't-
first of all.
yeah.
I would like to know what you gentlemen would like the ladies to come up and ask you
Oh,
to
no.
get to know you.
This is dangerous for Steve.
Instead of saying how much is in your 401k account
How
or
much life insurance do you have?
life insurance.
You know, I've never been asked that. There's so much around about, all ladies want to know is how much money you make and
I
how
hate
big
those
your
stupid
house
memes.
is.
I know.
I have never in my life been, no, one time I have. But just once. And I talked to quite a few gals. But yeah, I don't know.
Don't you hate those memes?
What is it that you would like the women to ask you to where, and versus asking where do you live, what do you do for a living?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever had a lady come up and talk to me.
Oh.
Ever.
I do say that
I talked to you for the first time at that fireside.
I
You're
talked to you
wearing the
first.
most
Because I came back and
shirt,
said,
Steve.
we know.
Your shirt is blowing me away. Just want to say.
Really?
So yeah, it makes his face light up.
Pops the eyes.
Yeah, it
right?
does look good.
Mm-hmm.
I brought you cookies the first time I met you at that fireside.
That was the second.
So would we?
I don't know. I don't know if it's all that important what it is. The fact is that it's happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I didn't have to go talk to her.
I would-
She came and talked to
I
me.
would
This
love.
is awesome.
I would love
Really?
to
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
have a conversation.
So, men, you want to be approached by women?
What?
Well, I was
Oh,
going to say,
I
I know what I'd like to be asked. That
What would you
that
like to be asked?
This goes back to a previous podcast that you talked about this. I'd like them to ask something like, "What are you doing next week?"
Okay.
Right? I said, "What you want to know what my schedule's like? You're interested in hanging out with me?" Yeah.
Some of us
Yeah,
though, are
that's-
inherently shy, and if I go to talk to somebody, then it's like, and
Are you tongue-tied? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then things come out like, "Do you live around here often?"
Take luck.
You know, and then they think you're some weirdo. So that's usually how it goes.
But that comes with practice. It does.
No, because then it does come with practice to a point, and then there's a lady there that makes your heart flutter, and then you're like,
Well, it's different when you're Twitter baited.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I don't know
But
what
just
that's
for getting
like.
to know people in general and not like hitting on the opposite sex. Because gathering is not just like finding a mate. I
No.
mean, if it happens, it's great. But just as far as getting to know other people, it seems like what we have to do is come out of our comfort zone a little bit and put ourselves forward and risk looking dumb, risk coming across in a way you don't necessarily want to come across. But just putting yourself out there and trusting that your effort's going to be a good thing in whatever comes of it. Even if it's just looking back and going, I'm proud of myself.
I'm good living in my little turtle shell. I'll just poke my head out.
Oh, no, you're not.
Well,
Don't make me talk about it, Steve.
Sometimes it can be just casual, not going out like Julie said, just not going in with expectations and just going and doing something casual, which is one of the reasons that we're doing this Come Follow Me group. And Julia's come, and Kirk, how far have you driven from Ogden to come to some of those?
Oh, well, Ogden down to Harriman, like the farthest reaches of Harriman. So,
But you
How
went
far
to
is
Julie's.
that?
You went to
Over an
Alpine.
Wow.
You came to Alpine. That's even
I
further.
guess it's true.
How long does it take you to drive?
Oh, that was hour and 15, hour and 20.
And that's what I'm finding is people from 3 different counties are coming to these, and it started because a friend contacted me after the last general conference when they announced these changes and said, "Hey, I got this strong impression that we should start this group." And I'm like, "That is so awesome. Do you know what you're going to do?" And they're like, "No, I have no idea." And I'm like, "I do. Like, I can help you," because I knew the technology side of it. I'm a technology geek. Like, I can
testify to that.
I can do this as far as the Facebook side of it, and I know people in 3 counties that I can invite. And the first month, 40 people joined. We now have over 160 people in the group.
See, because you're feeling the pull to come together, and this is
people are craving it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's why I want to talk about that. People are craving it, and people will drive if they know they're going to go and connect with people.
We obviously have a good group, right, Kirk?
It's a great group.
If
yeah.
you create it, people will come.
Yeah.
And
we love each other, and we're like brothers and sisters.
And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be just putting yourself out there.
Right.
It's just coming to something like that where we just have a common
we're family.
belief, right? And we're just
You're automatically family when you walk into
Absolutely.
those doors.
I may or may not have gotten a date from one of those. So
Oh, nice.
does that mean I
Nice.
got a date with my sister and her family?
Woo! Well, aren't we all brothers and sisters?
Well, okay. All right.
Well,
now you know how to
That's
treat her.
wonderful.
I have to say that I
already know. She
don't
told
think
me
it
how.
was the same evening, but I had to break the fast at my house. Oh yeah, this is over a year and a half ago or something like that now. And 2 of them that came there, met, and are now a couple, and I'm pretty sure headed to marriage. So this stuff does happen. But I think that, especially with all the changes that are happening, we're going to see more and more of that drive to gather. And it'll be really interesting to see what they talk about
Well,
this weekend.
I think that in the more intimate gatherings, you have a lot better opportunity to know somebody better, and that I do want to go date this. I do want to take this person out, rather than going to a big dance where there's 1,000 people and everybody's out wiggling on
Absolutely
the dance floor. And you asked what I like with the women to ask. I think one of the big things is if you leave your little pack or herd once in a while, you know, because it's intimidating for a guy to go up to 10 women that are all together. And I've had it happen where I've gone up and tried to break into the group, and they just turn their shoulders together, and you're like ostracized. And you go around to the other side, and they just trap you out.
Wow.
You've got to
I know
understand
what
what
you're
it
talking
is.
about, though.
That's not on you. That's on them, though.
I get that, but if a woman
Okay.
wants to go
Okay.
and wants to meet people, or wants to bring her tribe or get more people in her tribe, she needs to leave her pack or herd or
Yes.
whatever you call that little gaggle of girls that run
Flock,
around and
I
go to the
think.
bathroom together.
Right.
Or-
Right.
They need
Yeah, no
gaggles.
gaggle's good.
Yeah, they need to remove themselves a little bit, because if there is a guy that's paying attention, he might come and talk to you just because you left your gaggle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't stay with the
What
gaggle
if
for that
she?
reason.
What if she
Yeah.
stayed with her gaggle, but was facing you? Would you be more willing to approach her?
Nope.
Okay, so you want her
All right.
standing alone.
Well, yeah. Think about hunting. It's
Easy
easier.
prey.
It's much
Hunting,
easier
yeah, you're gonna-
to.
You cut one from the herd.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to compare women to animals.
So you're gonna go after the one that's gonna go and have some water
Except
and some
unicorns.
food.
All right, so Steve waits for one of them
To
to,
pick
break,
off the easy
to break
one.
off, that he
break
can
off.
pounce.
No, I don't even go anymore.
You know what? But that's a good. But I
You
see
have to
that.
make
I see what
yourself
you're saying.
approachable.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
All right.
Okay.
We're going to have to wrap up pretty soon here. What do you got, Doug?
I just wanted to know, like, we've been talking about gathering, and admittedly, this area, it's very easy to do that. But I feel for the people who are in areas where there isn't a strong LDS presence, and how do they do it? And I know you talked before about the dating apps, and they're hit and miss, right? But what if they want to gather with people, that are LDS that are around them? Sometimes it's really difficult.
There's 3 singles in my ward.
Yeah, I talked to somebody, a friend, they actually live in Winnipeg, Canada. There's 2 eligible guys in the city
Yeah.
to date that are LDS, and I'm like, and I don't know what the answer is. So maybe whoever's listening can post a comment.
What
Yeah,
they
I would
do.
love to hear stories of people who are trying to gather in areas that are not Utah or not widely populated with members of the church. And also, if there are singles that are trying to gather with married
How do you
married
integrate
groups,
that?
because there's
But
nothing
women
wrong
are
with
better,
doing that.
much better at that. The Relief
Yeah.
Society is much better at putting their arms around a sister than the
true.
brothers are.
Yeah.
That's true. We tend to ignore each other a lot. It's
So
sad.
it would be great if I could get some comments from listeners about their experiences gathering, or suggestions for people who are in less populated areas for gathering. And we'll probably do another one of these episodes. Also, we're going to be doing an episode on how you're handling Come Follow Me as a single. I think we're recording next week. So if you have a comment on that or a question for that, please post it at AnnetteTalks.com or on my Facebook page, the Annette Talks Facebook page. Or drop me an email at AnnetteTalks.com. We're going to wrap it up because we've gone over 40 minutes, as usual. But it's been a great discussion, everyone. And thank you for listening to LDS Unmarried Life, which can be found on AnnetteTalks.com, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. I can't remember them all. Anyway, find me somewhere. Thank you for listening to LDS Unmarried Life, where LDS singles gather.
I'm gonna blue